What's up, YouTube? Pink Reaper here. If you had been paying attention to the last video, you'll note that I'm nowhere near where I was in the last video of Mega Man Battle Network. Right now, I'm just doing something a little different. I'm grinding bug frags. I'm grinding bug frags the way I normally do, which is just beat up on a Gutsman over and over and over again. But this video is not actually going to be a Let's Play part. This is just something to sort of have in the background while I talk about what I want to talk about in this video. This is going to be sort of an E3 impressions video and more of an explanation on my thoughts from the last video, the whole brand identity thing, the Xbox One, all of that. Is this going to be enough damage? I hope this is enough damage. So today was the third day of E3. Not a huge amount of announcements on the third day. It's mostly just sort of people getting hands-on with games and things like that. We got more information about some games that we'd already known about. We got to see some actual gameplay, things like that. Not much of my opinion has changed on, you know, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One since the last video. There's not really been anything new that came out or anything like that. If anything, my my opinion on the Xbox One has become worse because of some of the things that have been said by Microsoft and how they've dealt with certain things. Like, for instance, you may have seen on IGN they posted Microsoft's response to if you don't have if you want to play an offline device, they have that. It's called an Xbox 360. Well, no, you see, if I want to play an offline device, they have that. It's called a PlayStation 4. I can totally just play that instead. It was not a very good way to handle that, in my opinion. It's not a good answer to that. It may just be them trying to do damage control, but honestly, it came off very snarky. It came off very condescending, to say the least. And as such, it did not do anything more to endear me towards their now ridiculously overpriced, completely pointless device. I'd like to talk. Well, no. Before we get into the big brand identity thing, let's talk about E3 and some of the things that really excited me. So, Nintendo hadn't really had its day yet when I did the last video, so we didn't get to see anything from Nintendo. The stuff they released, not the most interesting. There was a lot of very obviously, like, as most other places have been putting it. There's been a lot of safe stuff. I mean, they showed off, you know, a new Mario, but it wasn't really a new Mario. It's just Mario 3D Land, made for their home console. I'm not necessarily disappointed in that. I own Mario 3D Land. I actually think Mario 3D Land is a great game. But I would have appreciated, something different, another large open world type game, like a Mario Sunshine, like a Mario Galaxy, and not getting that does kind of suck, to say the least. That said, there's something very interesting, something that very much does interest me about Mario 3D World, which is the Wii U title, and that is that it is multiplayer, 4-player actually, and it's a 4-player 3D Mario game, not like the new Super Mario Brothers, but despite not necessarily having the biggest worlds, it is a full 3D world Super Mario Brothers, and that is something that very much interests me. It is something I will most definitely buy, and I already intend to Let's Play that with with AznEyes White Dragon. That would interest me greatly. Probably the game I'm actually most excited about, and this is going to sound really odd, especially since a lot of people know I'm a huge Smash fan. The game I am most excited about that they showed off was Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 looks amazing. I love the direction they took it in. I love the hover carts, the going on walls. I've always been a huge Mario Kart fan, and I just absolutely love that. I very much look forward to playing that game when it comes out. I was pretty upset they didn't show off any well, they did. They showed off a little bit of X, you know, the untitled Monolith Soft game. They showed off a bit. They showed off a teaser trailer like that. And it looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely great. And I am 100% willing to believe that game is going to be amazing. Xenoblade Chronicles was unquestionably the best game that came out in the last generation for the Wii. If you have not played that game and you have a Wii, I am sorry, because you are probably not going to be able to get it. That game is excruciatingly difficult to find now because of the exclusivity deal that Nintendo had with GameSpot for that, or GameStop for that game. It makes it very difficult to find now. Oh, I missed. But if you can find it, if you can find it online, if you can find somewhere that has it, you owe it to yourself to play that game. That game is just so good. It is so much better than every RPG that has come out this generation. And that's saying something, because despite the fact that there's been a ton of terrible RPGs, there's also been Tales of Vesperia, which is absolutely one of my favorite RPGs. And there have been other good ones out there. Speaking of RPGs, this isn't Nintendo based, but they did announce, they finally announced what's this game I was hyped for and then I already forgot about it. Kingdom Hearts 3. Yes, Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 has finally been announced. Or rather, it had been announced like a decade ago and they're finally showing it off. It is, and this is going to go into the kind of the brand exclusivity thing. People, when I made the last video, were telling me I forgot Kingdom Hearts for a brand, an exclusive game for Sony. The problem is Kingdom Hearts isn't an exclusive game for Sony. I know it's only the handhelds, but there have been plenty of Kingdom Hearts games for Nintendo's handhelds, so I can't really call it exclusive. And even now, they announced that Kingdom Hearts 3 will be on the Xbox One. Why? I don't know. I don't know why you'd put that game on that system, but go ahead, I guess. It really did actually strike me as odd. I don't see why they just didn't do it with the Wii U, considering they have supported Nintendo's handhelds all this time. They've never done anything for an Xbox console. Kingdom Hearts has only been, the main flagship titles have only ever been on the PlayStation, well, PlayStation 2 really, and then the spin-offs have been handheld for Sony's handhelds and Nintendo's handhelds. I don't really get putting it on Microsoft's console, but it's Square Enix's decision to make, and to be quite honest, Square Enix has made some questionable decisions as of late, so I'm not going to get too into that anyways. I do intend to buy PS4 anyways, so I will get to play it. But going back to Nintendo, Bayonetta 2 looks amazing. I have never played Bayonetta 1. I'd never really kept up on Bayonetta 1, so I didn't really know much about Bayonetta 1. But having seen so much of Bayonetta 2, I now feel like I should probably go back and buy Bayonetta 1. And then probably also buy Bayonetta 2, because that game looks great. They showed off more of The Wonderful 101, which honestly doesn't really interest me that much. I know a lot of people are actually really hyped for that game. I've read a lot of articles saying it's actually a really great game, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't kind of light the spark for me. Retro announced yet another Donkey Kong game. This has brought the ire of many, blaming Nintendo for this, but it was actually Retro's choice. The Retro Studio, the Retro team, I'm sorry, has come out and said specifically that they wanted to make another Metro, or they had to choose between making another Metroid game or making a Donkey Kong game, and they chose Donkey Kong. So I guess if you want to be angry at anyone, be angry at Retro for not making that game. If I can go off on a little tangent here real quick, one of the funniest things about this story about the new Donkey Kong game, Tropic Freeze, is how people react to it. There's a lot of like, I don't know what I want to call them. Like, I feel like they have to be Nintendo fanboys. Like, That is the only reason that they would even care like this. They're complaining about the fact that Retro is making a sequel to a game, and then complaining again. They're complaining about the fact that they're making a sequel. It's like, oh, they're just making another sequel. You know, we don't want that. But then they say what we want is a sequel to a game, to a different game. We want a sequel to Metroid Prime. Like, you're complaining about something and then saying you want that exact thing. You're a hypocrite, basically, is what I'm saying. It just struck me as hilarious seeing those kind of comments. And they're like everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. It's the big one from Nintendo was obviously Super Smash Bros. They showed off not only gameplay footage of both the DS and the Wii U version, but they introduced, you know, 3 new characters. They showed us the Villager, which a lot of people are like, why the Villager? Why the Villager? Animal Crossing has become a huge brand for Nintendo. That game has grown some serious wings. It is gigantic now. I don't think a lot of people understand that. That game sells like millions and millions of copies. It absolutely makes sense why that character would be in there. And there's actually, as someone from Smashboards, as someone who's from the Smash community, I can say there's actually a lot of people who have, you know, wanted the Villager in Smash Bros. So it didn't come as a huge surprise to me. Mega Man did, however. How should I put this? For Brawl, there was always this expectation that Mega Man would be in it. Like, it made sense, right? Mega Man would be in this game. They want third-party characters. Who do they pick? Well, you know, they put in Snake, because Hideo Kojima had originally wanted Snake in Melee, but they didn't have time. They put in Sonic, because, like, well, that just makes sense. That's an old rivalry. But then the other thing was Mega Man. Like, there's a huge following for Mega Man, and everyone had always wanted Mega Man, but then he didn't get in. And then it kind of just fell off for me. I didn't really think about Mega Man. Especially with Capcom canceling every Mega Man game they'd made in a while. Any game they were making, any game that wanted to be made, any game that the fans wanted. If it was Mega Man, Capcom hated it, and they hated you for liking Mega Man. So seeing this Mega Man, and done right, it's the Mega Man, it's a kind of Mega Man that you'd expect. It's not like bad box art Mega Man or something like that. It's good old-fashioned 8-bit Mega Man brought into HD, and he looks so fun. Like, he's got all of the Wily number powers. It just looks like a very well-designed character. I like it. And then there's the Wii Fit trainer. So many people are angry about this, and I'm absolutely not. I love the idea of the Wii Fit trainer. That character looks great to me. People are complaining because they think, you know, the Wii Fit trainer is going to cause what character they want to not get in. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with what characters are already in. It has everything to do with what they intended to put in the first place. If Ridley hadn't been intended to be put in the first place, he's not going to get in just because he wasn't going to get in if they didn't put Wii Fit trainer in there. And I honestly think the character just looks hilarious. I loved the trailer they brought out for her, with Link, Kirby, and Mario doing the exercises. I just, like, it's a joke character. I mean, let's be completely honest here. It was a joke, but it, like, in the same way that Pichu was a joke character, in the same way that Game & Watch, Rob, kind of Jigglypuff, but not really, in the same way that they were joke characters, this is one of the joke characters. However, I don't feel that the Villager is a joke character. Many people might think that. I don't. That's a character that I legitimately think deserved to get in there, and then did. As for my actual thoughts on the game, well, I'm gonna buy it. I have to buy it. I'm a tool like that. It's got Mega Man in it, and I really want to play as Mega Man. I also really want to play as the Wii Fit trainer. But I can't say I'm super excited by it just because of how unimpressed Brawl left me. I know this is sort of a tournament player only kind of opinion, but I can't even really play Brawl for fun. Like, I can play Melee for fun. I can turn on items, I can play 4-player, I can do that. And it's great. I love it. It still works. And then I can turn all of those things off, and I can go try hard, turny-tard, and just do whatever I want. And that's ridiculously fun, too. But for Brawl, neither of those things are fun to me. I turn on all the items and all that stuff, but the game is still, like, slow, and hitting people doesn't feel good. There's no real enjoyment I get out of that game. And it's extraordinarily likely that this next Smash game is going to be exactly the same. It's gonna be another, like, you know, remove advanced techniques on purpose kind of thing. There's clearly no wave dashing. If you've seen the trailer, there's a not the trailer, the developer roundtable. There's a part where Sakurai shows off Bowser, both in the 3DS and Wii U versions, and there's clearly no directional air dodging, so wave dashing won't be in unless they decide they want it to be in and they want it to have its own button or something. But yeah, there's clearly no wave dashing. But the big thing that got taken away in Brawl was, like, hit stun. There was just no real stun on hits. You could air dodge out of your hit stun, and as such, like, combos didn't really work, or they were really, really situational, or they were like out of grabs only, or it was like chain grabs and things like that, and it wasn't fun as far as I'm concerned. I know there's a lot of people who like competitive Brawl. I don't understand why. I know there's plenty of people who like it, but also willingly admit that Melee is superior. Sakurai has on one occasion admitted that Melee was superior, but dang it, I wanted you to hit me. But it just, even uncompetitively, it didn't appeal to me. Because when I play a game like that, I still like, it's not just a game like that, it's any game. I love fluid movement, and Brawl just didn't have it. That's a really big thing for me. I might make a whole video on that alone, on like movement in games. But yeah, so they announced the new Smash Bros. It looks amazing. It's going to be a huge system seller, but it doesn't interest me as much as it interests a lot of other people. I'm trying to think if there's any other big announcements I'm forgetting. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't show off Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. That game very much interested me when they announced it, but they didn't really show it off, which makes me sad. I really hope this doesn't kill him. I mean, I am a huge Fire Emblem fan. I've never been big into the Shin Megami Tensei series. I know it's actually supposed to be amazing, but it's just a series I never had time to pick up. There's a lot of series like that. It's sort of I've got a tremendous amount of games already. I can't really invest more time into other ones. Despite saying that, I just bought SSX, the latest SSX game. I got it at $19.99 for $19.99 on my PS3. So I say that, but then it's entirely possible that I might just go back and buy all of those games anyways. I was pretty disappointed they didn't really show off that. They showed off more Pikmin 3, but I didn't really need convincing on that one. I loved Pikmin 1 and 2. I've seen enough of Pikmin 3. I'll buy Pikmin 3. Moving on to Sony, they've shown off a lot more stuff. They showed off Infamous Second Son, and honestly, there's a lot of people who are really hype about it. I was hype about it, that they were going to... not hype about the game, but hype that they were going to show off, gameplay for it finally, because I'm a huge, huge Infamous fan. But this one just doesn't seem that interesting to me. And there's this weird thing I noticed during one of the gameplay trailers. The character gets shot and nothing happens. Like, he just doesn't take damage. So, is this character just, like, immune to bullets? Like, it just seems... like, why am I supposed to care? Like, if my character is immune to bullets, why do I even have to pretend to care about getting hit? I don't know. It just struck me as weird. And, the powers just don't seem as interesting to me. But I don't know. I'm going to see how that's developed more. Obviously, I also mentioned they announced Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy Versus 13, which as far as I was considered, like, I never thought that game would ever see the light of day again. I thought that game was just gone. But now they're announcing it as as Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15, not appealing to me at all. Kingdom Hearts 3, totally gonna buy it. I will day one purchase that, no question. I will say, however, the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer, like, looks like honestly, it just looks like an upscaled PS2 game. It doesn't even look that great for PS3, and you're telling me it's a PS4 and Xbox One game? Okay. I don't really care. Like, honestly, it could look PS2. I'd still buy it. I mean, I've never really cared that much about graphics. As long as the game is good, that's all I really care about. Graphics just tend to be like the icing on top of the cake, which is kind of why before E3 and before, you know, some of the game announcements and some of the awesome price point and, you know, the no DRM and all that stuff, the PS4 honestly didn't interest me that much either. But then they announced all this cool stuff, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm down now. That's all you need. That's all you really need to get people interested. You just gotta have some good games. I don't particularly care about the hair on the arm or the dog from Call of Duty. I don't care how realistic they look. I just want it to play well. Oh shoot, I'm about to die. I don't have enough space for this. It's cool. I can survive by doing this. The big thing I want out of next-gen consoles is just, like, better AI. I don't want better graphics, I want better AI. Every single year, or not every single year, but, like, every single generation for consoles, we get, you know, better and better graphics, and that's what they push. They're like, look how much more realistic this is, but look how less realistic, like, enemies act and how things work. Your AI isn't smart, so your games still aren't very fun. Let's just put it like that. So you've got all of this power. Don't dedicate it all to the graphics. Work on the characters. Work on the AI, please, for the love of God. And even then, there's sort of a plateau we've hit in terms of graphics. Like the PS4 and the Xbox One, they definitely there's more power to it. You've got more. You can get better particle effects. You can get better bump mapping, you can get, God, I forget the word. You can get better graphics, but it's not so much more. It's not that big leap from, you know, like, the PS1 and the N64 to the PS2 and the GameCube. More so like the GameCube and the N64, or I mean the GameCube and the N64, or the Xbox and the N64. No offense to the PS2, but a lot of without the full motion videos, once you get to the where am I going? I actually want to stay in the beach area. The CG cutscenes obviously can look great on a PS2, but the actual in-game graphics were not as good as the GameCube and the Xbox. But yeah, in terms of actual graphics, like, you're not gonna get much better than what we already have. And in fact, if we hit another console generation, I don't even see it getting any better than what we're at now. There's always this mythical idea of photorealism, but that's not going to happen. I'm sorry, guys. You're never going to get photorealistic games, and honestly, I don't want photorealistic games. I like my games to be, like, to look like games. Like, everything they show off now, it definitely looks more realistic. You've got, like, you know, you've got the wrinkles on an old person's face and more realistic eyes and stuff like that, but it can't change the fact that everything looks kind of like really, really well-modeled clay. There's also a big thing for me. I had a friend who absolutely believes Gears of War is, like, super realistic looking. I'm like, everything looks like clay to me. It looks like, literally, it looks like clay models that have been painted. Realism in games doesn't necessarily look realistic. Let's just put it like that. I totally forgot what I was going off on right now. Oh right, sorry. I don't know how I got so far off on this tangent. I was talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15. Right, Final Fantasy 15. Why am I even fighting this fight? Final Fantasy 15 obviously was announced. Other big Sony games. This isn't... Well, there's the problem. There wasn't a lot of exclusive Sony games. There was some cool indie stuff. There was some not cool indie stuff. Like, it's cool that you're letting the people who made Octodad develop on your PS4, but the actual Octodad game looks retarded, so, you know, I'm just saying. But there was some cool indie stuff. The big thing... And the big thing is, you know, the cross-platform games. The stuff that's going to be on Xbox One and going to be on PS4. And this goes into my next point. This is the... Oh, shoot. I can't escape this battle. This is the big brand exclusivity rant I went on last time, and I'm going to now go further into in this particular video. So, let's go back a ways. Let's go a long ways back. Let's go all the way back to the NES. During the time of the NES, there were other competing systems out there, but at the end of the day, let's be completely honest, it was pretty much just Nintendo. Nintendo was kind of the only kid on the block. And at the time they released, you know, for the first time ever, a bunch of games that, you know, at the time were completely new. We had, you know, the first Super Mario Brothers game. We had, the first Metroid game, the first Legend of Zelda game. And that was huge. That was absolutely huge. And they were gigantic, and they were system sellers, and they basically, they made the Nintendo brand. You knew Nintendo by those characters. You knew Nintendo as Mario, basically. And they expanded that in the Super Nintendo days. And during the Super Nintendo days, that was the first time Nintendo really had big competition. That was Nintendo and Sega. And Sega was did the same thing as Nintendo did in the early days. They needed that brand exclusivity. They needed something that let you, you know, you saw this and you thought Sega. Like, this is Sega, basically. I really hope that was fast enough for an S rank, but not fast enough for a... Dang it. I'm trying to get Plant Man 3, by the way, if you guys are wondering what I'm doing right now. So, they tried to establish, like, that mascot character, that character you could think of, you know, when you thought Sega, you thought that character. And that character was Sonic the Hedgehog. They made Sonic. Sega had Sonic Team. They produced Sonic. Sonic was huge. I may or may not have done my rants about Sonic and the fact that I never really thought it was actually that great, but I'm not going to go into that now because it sold well. That's all that mattered. People liked it, and it was huge, and people still to this day, they equate Sega with Sonic. And that's what brand exclusivity is. That is, you know, you can only play Sonic on Sega systems. You know, Sega does what Nintendo don't, that kind of thing. Oh shoot. It's the idea that you can only play these games on our system. And that you'd want to play these games on our system. And then Sony came around, you know, the PlayStation came around. Obviously, Nintendo was still doing their thing. They still had their, you know, their Nintendo IPs. It was only Nintendo. You could only play it on Nintendo, and that's still huge for Nintendo. Make no mistake, I find it highly unlikely that Nintendo will ever really be out of the game. There's plenty of people who think, you know, Nintendo is doomed or whatever, because of some such nonsense or another. Oh, I didn't want to add. I really didn't want to add. There's literally no chance Nintendo is doomed. As long as they have Smash Bros, as long as they have Zelda, as long as they have Mario, they'll be fine. There are people who have been with with Nintendo a very, very long time, who are complaining about the fact that they're still making Zelda, but let's be completely honest, you're still gonna buy it anyway. And Sega, briefly, still had their still had Sonic. They still had their not a huge. They didn't have a huge pool of like well-known stuff, but they did have their exclusives. They had, you know, Power Stone on the Dreamcast. They had Shenmue. Poor Shenmue. Shenmue did not do well. They had a bunch of weird stuff. They had like Space Channel 5 and things like that. Oh, that's not what I was hoping for. But then Sony came in, and Sony tried the same thing. They really wanted something that they could equate with them. That's where Crash Bandicoot came from. When they were trying to decide what character to use in Crash Bandicoot, they were literally trying to decide what character they wanted as the mascot for Sony. And again, there was a bunch of exclusives. You could only play on PlayStation. You know, the flagship Final Fantasy games, they all moved to PlayStation. You could only play them there. And oh, that's probably gonna give me a 4, isn't it? Version 4? No, that's actually a 9. Dang it! I'm gonna save it anyway. The flagship Final Fantasy games, just things like that, you know, games you could only play on Sony systems. Nintendo had the same thing, but theirs was obviously mostly with just their own IPs. And going into the last generation, the Xbox, PlayStation, or not the last generation, 2 generations ago, Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Nintendo obviously still had their strong IPs. Sony still had their strong exclusives. They weren't obvious. They didn't. A lot of them weren't Sony. Oh, sweet! I can finally start going for the new style. They obviously not all of them came specifically from Sony at like Nintendo's did, but they did have a lot of Sony exclusive stuff. They had Sly Cooper. They had Jak and Daxter. They had wait, those actually aren't made by Sony. But you know, they had their exclusives. They had Ratchet and Clank, things like that. And now you have Microsoft in the game, and Microsoft's big thing was Halo. You equated, you completely, unquestionably, you equated Xbox with Halo. That's just how it was. And to be completely honest, at the time, the Xbox survived because of Halo. This is something that's gonna sound kind of mean, but the Xbox kind of didn't have a presence. Like if it wasn't for Halo, I can't see the Xbox 360 even existing. Well, I have to add a sort of footnote to that. It's Halo and Xbox Live. That was definitely a big one. Xbox Live was just so much better than anything that Sony had for online. But again, it was that exclusive. It was that thing you had to have on that system that you could only get on that system, and that was Halo. That was really what it was. And then obviously you have a lot of the people who are big into sports games. You know, you can finally play Madden online, and you can finally actually play Madden online on a connection that works and stuff like that. Although if I do remember correctly, there was a time when like EA pretty much like did not support Xbox Live, but that's neither here nor there. That was probably too fast. How was that 30 seconds again? I keep feeling like I'm doing this in way under 30 seconds, but I'm apparently not. I want lock enemy to run out before I get in another fight, so I can put up another one. So this is brand exclusivity, basically. This is, you know, you have that system seller, and it's only available on your console. Now, moving into the last generation, the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii generation. This is really when Sony kind of like dropped the ball. Their system was not good. Like, this sounds mean, but it's true. The PlayStation architecture was not developer friendly. And because of that, they lost a tremendous amount of support for their console. Developers either straight up moved, or they just started making their games for the 360 and then just porting them over to the PlayStation. Because the 360 was just easier to design for. That's just how it was. And this is why Sony kind of failed in the last generation. Now, you might not be of the opinion that Sony was last place in the last generation, but trust me, they were. That's bad. Yeah, no chance of getting this chip this time. You know what? I'm just gonna restart. They were outsold, not just by the Wii, which obviously outsold everything. The Wii absolutely dominated the last generation, but by the 360, despite the fact that the 360 has no presence whatsoever in Japan. Sony has an entire extra market that Microsoft does not. And even then, they straight up just lost to Microsoft. And they lost a lot of their key brands. You know, Capcom moved pretty much everything that was exclusive to the PS2 to being both on the 360 and the PS3. And in fact, there were, you know, more exclusives for the Xbox from Capcom than there were for the PS3. And a lot of stuff, like, they lost the Final Fantasy brand, they lost Devil May Cry, they lost Grand Theft Auto. Losing Grand Theft Auto was huge. And this exceptionally hurt Sony. It wasn't the only thing. There were a lot of problems with the PS3 at launch, not the least of which was that absurd price tag. But that was the big thing. That was one of the things that a lot of people don't realize absolutely hurt Sony, and absolutely helped Microsoft. Because as it is right now, the PS3 and the Xbox 360 are not that different from each other. They are architecturally pretty similar, despite what Sony used to say, you know, before it came out, or despite those 6 cores and all that, that cell processor and all that. The Xbox 360 and the PS3 are pretty much the same system in terms of power. Want to kill you without getting hit by those flowers. I just need 2 damage. It's cool, I'll get hit. Oh, shoot. I wanted to get hit once so I can guarantee like a 10 rating. Oh, and then I got hit twice. Resetting. The Xbox 360 and the PS3 are not that different. Graphically speaking, there's pretty much no difference between the two systems. In terms of power, there's really not that much of a difference. I will say the 360's controller is better, though, if that makes a difference to anyone. Makes a difference to AznEyes and I, I'll say that much. But because there's no real difference between the two systems, and because a lot of the games, you know, someone might want to play, you can play on either system, and because the 360 was so much cheaper, it was obvious, you know, the choice, you know, buy a 360. And now entering into this next generation, it feels like the opposite is true. Sony has made all of the right choices with how they're going about the PlayStation 4. Because, realistically speaking, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox 360 are not going to be that much difference. Because of how the RAM is set up, the PS4 might be a little bit better. But again, it's not going to be a big thing. I need to hit you hard. So it's not going to be a big difference. Sorry, I got distracted by trying to kill Plant Man right there. Oh, damn it. And as such, the winner for this generation is basically set by the one that's more appealing to buy. Because there's not a huge difference between the consoles, because you know, graphically speaking, they're pretty much the same, because there's not as many exclusives for one or the other. The winner really will just be the one that is basically the one that is cheaper, the one that's more appealing to buy. It sounds simple. It sounds too simple almost, that like just the fact that the PS4 is $100 cheaper is going to be what gives it the win, but it's true, because it's if I want to play the next Call of Duty game, if I'm one of those guys who, you know, if I'm AznEyes My Dragon basically, who's big excited for the next Call of Duty game. Oh, hit, please hit, please hit. Yes. Why would I, and the experience is exactly the same on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Why would I drop that extra $100 for that Xbox One when I could save quite a bit of money? $100. Like, you need to understand how much $100 is to a gamer. $100 is multiple games. Well, I guess that really depends on what the pricing of this current generation of games is, but you get the idea at least. $100 is a tremendous amount of money to gamers. Are you gonna do something other than this? Please? Please? Come on, just stop moving. Fine, I'll just make you stop. $100 is a lot of money to gamers. And obviously it's not just that. There's the ridiculous DRM restrictions, there's the no used games, there's things like that on a... this one's lost. On the Xbox One. So clearly that's just more things in Sony's favor. And, you know, they came out swinging at E3. I've never seen, like, I have literally never seen a company go that hard at the throat of another company and actually, like, really have it work. Sony kind of tried with the PS3, like, they talked about, but it felt more like kind of like empty bravado. Like for instance, they were talking about how, like, the Wii was who was it? I think it was Jack Trenton, or maybe it was Kaz Hirai. They like there's a really great Penny Arcade comic about this actually. They likened the Wii remote to a lollipop. Said they're too old for lollipops, and then what do? Well, a few years later, the Wii was absolutely smashing them, and they released the PlayStation Move controller, which is quite literally a lollipop. There's been quite a few words of war between Sony and Microsoft too, especially in the last couple of years because they're so similar. But it always sort of felt like empty. Like, it didn't really feel like it meant anything. It was just sort of like them trying to pretend that they're really the better console. But now Sony does. Sony absolutely has the better console. They're cheaper. They have less restrictions. They've got you know, they've got all of the momentum in their court, and it's so bad for Microsoft. Like, the Xbox One is basically almost obsolete at this point. And in fact, a lot of, like, the stuff that Microsoft showed off at their conference was cross-platform stuff anyways. Like, why do I need to be excited about Call of Duty Ghosts or Madden or something like that when I can play it on any other console? Except, I guess, maybe the Wii U, because EA said they're not developing games for the Wii U, which is awesome in my opinion. If we could just get them to stop developing games in general, that'd be great. And then there was, like, Peggle 2. God, really? You wasted people's time at E3 to show them Peggle 2. Like, granted, that was EA. Killer Instinct. Okay, now, before anyone, like, yells at me, any of the Killer Instinct fans, I don't dislike Killer Instinct. I think Killer Instinct's great. But this absolutely floored me when I saw this. So it should be common knowledge at this point that Microsoft owns Rare. Microsoft owns the company that originally made Killer Instinct. So why is it that we're currently having a company that is not Rare make Killer Instinct. That doesn't make any sense to me. That is absolutely absurd as far as I'm concerned. You have, like, it's clear that... Oh, really? It's clear that the reason you're making Killer Instinct is because you expect that to be like something. You expect it to be something, basically. You wouldn't bring back that franchise unless you expected it to sell. But then, why are you bringing it back, or why are you having it made by a company that isn't the people who originally made it? When you own those people! Quite literally, those people are, you know, on your dime. Like, you could just be like, I want you to make Killer Instinct, and then they have to do it because you own them. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just another one of the, like, the long list of just absolutely awful, awful choices that Microsoft has made. Is making with this new generation. How do I keep getting 30 seconds? This is annoying me. So the Xbox One, yeah, it's just it's so bad. It really is. It's in such a bad position right now. And I don't see it succeeding. Like, in this next generation, I honestly expect it to be Sony 1, Nintendo 2, Microsoft 3. And that's if Microsoft even makes it through this next generation. I know that sounds harsh, but going back to Nintendo, the reason Nintendo will survive is because, one, Nintendo has its exclusives, and two, because Nintendo is its own console. The Wii U is not in direct competition with the PS4 and the 360. It does not do the same things the PS4 and the 360 do. In the same way that the Wii did not do the same things that the Did I say Xbox 360 earlier? Yeah, I did. The Wii U does not do the same things that the PS4 and the Xbox One do. And the Wii did not do the same things that the PS3 and the Xbox 360 did. You can say that's going to hurt them, and it may. Their sales probably won't match, or no, their sales definitely won't match the Wii sales. The Wii U will not do as well as the Wii. That is guaranteed. It does not take an expert analysis to tell you that. That is just obvious. The Wii sold like it literally was filled with premium crack cocaine or something. That thing what, hit 100+ million units? That's ridiculous. However, Nintendo will not fail, because theirs will interest people. Their system will interest people who otherwise, theirs will interest people who are interested in the PS4. There are gamers who can buy multiple systems, but they won't buy a PS4 and an Xbox One, because there's no reason to buy a PS4 and an Xbox One. They're not different enough. I have an HTC One X smartphone. Because I have an HTC One X smartphone, why would I ever buy an iPhone? Like, they're not so different that I need to have one over the other. I wouldn't need both, is what I'm saying. Obviously, there's other reasons why I wouldn't, but I'm just saying. Or, for that matter, why would I buy an iPod Touch? Let's go with that instead. The iPod Touch is essentially a smartphone that doesn't make calls. In this hypothetical, I guess that would be the Xbox One. It does the exact same thing as my phone, only less. So if I have a device that already does all of the same things as that device, why would I feel interested in another one? On the flip side, I would be interested in, say, a laptop. Laptops, I mean, there's obviously a big difference between what a laptop does and a smartphone does or a tablet does, but it's not necessarily a different device. Like, it's in the same line of thinking right there. It's, access to the internet, downloading files, things like that, listen to music, watch movies, stuff like that. It's portable. But it's still very different. And it's something I would be interested in, because despite being the same, it's also extremely, extremely different. The things I can do on a laptop, I can't do on a tablet or a smartphone. Likewise, if I had a laptop, I'd still be interested in a smartphone, or maybe not a tablet, just because I can't see myself paying for 3G on a tablet, but that's a whole other thing. Just because they're similar doesn't mean they're the same. With the Xbox and the PS4, they really are just... They are pretty much the same. They are literally the same. So the Wii U will appeal to people, not only that aren't, you know, that it'll appeal to people who aren't interested in the PS4 or the Xbox One, but it will appeal to people who are interested in those things. I have a Wii U, and I'm still interested in the PS4. I'm interested in the PS4, and if I didn't have a Wii U, I'd still be interested in a Wii U, because it has things I'd want to play on it. And it has a different experience. It has that tablet controller. It has things you can't do on other systems. I know Sony put a touchpad on their controller, which is absolutely retarded in my opinion, but I'm still they're still so not the same. Like Nintendo will be fine, basically is what I'm saying. That I don't feel is true for Microsoft, however. Their system is... I don't know. It's... Because it's so similar, unless they do something drastic, unless there's a huge price cut, unless they basically just say, everything we said at and before E3, we're lying, we're taking it all back. I don't see it surviving this generation. Really? That can still hit me? Oh my goodness. It was sort of the same vein for the PS3 when it first came out. The PS3 was obviously just, like, there was so many negatives to it, and it did not sell well when it first came out. But at the time, at least, it still had, like, those exclusive brands. People still thought they'd only be able to play Grand Theft Auto, Final Fantasy, things like that on that system. And that helped. And they, you know, they cut prices, they did what they had to do to make it sell, and then it finally started doing it again, and it didn't necessarily do poorly. It definitely still lost last generation, and it definitely did infinitely worse than the PS2 did, but, I mean, Sony wasn't out of the game because of that. The problem here, the thing with the Xbox One is, we are now so much further into these consoles, like, we're so much further into these consoles being similar that now it really does come down to those things. It comes down to your exclusives, and I don't know how to word this. It comes down to your exclusives, and it comes down basically to your consumer appeal. Like I've been saying before. I guess I'll just use that word again. If you don't have those, like, if you don't have the exclusives, which, let's be completely honest, the Xbox One really doesn't, nor does the PS4 for that matter, then it really comes down to the appeal to the customers. And as I was saying, $100 less, can play used games, can trade games, can buy, sell games, no DRM, don't have to be online all the time. Like, clearly the PS4 is the choice, really. Oh, excuse me, I burped. That's not to say Sony only had good news. If you didn't watch the conference, you might not know this. In order to play online on actually on everything, I think now. I think it's PS3, PS Vita, and PS4. If you want to play online, you have to be a PlayStation Plus member, which is $50 a year, so it's still cheaper than Xbox Live. And there are benefits that come with it. You know, you get free games and stuff like that, but it's still kind of lame that you now have to pay to play online. And in fact, if you actually watched the conference, the way they did it was hilarious. They didn't come outright and say you have to pay to play online, you know. They kind of just sort of they worded it very how do I say this? They purposefully made it convoluted. They didn't just outright say during the next generation you have to have PlayStation Plus. It was more along the lines of they announced, you know, PlayStation Plus would be, you know, one account for all systems. If you have PlayStation Plus, you have it for everything, and then that you could still enjoy offline play and your media capabilities without PlayStation Plus. Basically, rather than saying that you have to have PlayStation Plus to play online, they basically said if you don't have PlayStation Plus, you can still play offline. It was just kind of funny to me. But really, that was it. That was the sole negative I really saw for Sony's conference. They had so much good stuff. They were definitely the winner of this year's E3, and I'm not really afraid to say that. Nintendo probably would be second place. They had some strong showings for games. It wasn't the greatest. It definitely wasn't their greatest E3 at all. Their greatest E3 was still when they announced the 3DS. What was that? E3 2009? I want to say it was 2009. Why am I running? Shoot. Great, now I have to restart again. That was definitely their best E3. Like, they showed off, the new Zelda, they showed off a new Kirby game, they showed off new Kid Icarus, they showed off so much. That was 100% their best. This, not so much. It's definitely not their worst. It's still so much better than, like, the last couple E3s when they had, like, nothing. They still showed off a lot of things that really, at the end of the day, even though I wasn't as excited as I'd hoped to be for them, I'm still basically gonna buy all of them anyways. Because I know they're all gonna be great anyways. Like, it doesn't bring the excitement, but it does bring that knowledge that, oh, these games are gonna be amazing anyways. I'm gonna buy the new Donkey Kong, I'm gonna buy the new Mario Kart, the new Smash Bros. I'll buy Bayonetta 2, more than likely, because Jesus, that game looks great. I really... they actually had a ridiculously strong showing for the 3DS, as they have been. The 3DS is doing amazing. Actually, going back to Sony, if I'm going to say there was one real negative to Sony, it was anything that had to do with the PlayStation Vita. Like, I'm sorry for the fans of the Vita out there, but your system is just doing so poorly. It's sort of in the Xbox One situation. In fact, this will be a good way to draw a parallel to that. Let's talk about the handhelds for a second. Let's go off on another huge tangent, just because it'll help further explain my earlier points of brand exclusivity and things like that. Lack of brand identity basically means you have a lack of an identity. Identity in general. Like, if you can't equate a system with something, what do you equate with that system at all then? Or if you can't equate a game with the system, what do you equate that system with at all? Like, right now, all I can equate the Xbox One with is, like, bad DRM and things like that, always online. But the PlayStation Vita has a little different of a problem. The PlayStation Vita does have some exclusives to it, some good exclusives. The problem is, Sony treats the PlayStation Vita like a handheld PlayStation 3. They don't treat it like its own system. And because of that, it's losing to the 3DS. That is why it is losing to the 3DS. I own a PlayStation 3. As I mentioned earlier, I just bought SSX for it, in fact. I own a PlayStation 3. If I wanted to play Uncharted, why would I buy Uncharted on the Vita when, the same game is for the PlayStation 3, but better? Why would I buy Marvel vs. Capcom 3? Why would I buy Killzone? Why would I buy any of these games when it's just the same stuff I could be playing on my PlayStation 3 anyways, and I could be getting a better experience? Especially when the PlayStation Vita costs almost as much as a PlayStation 3 right now. Sony has not been treating the Vita like its own system, and because of that, it lacks its own identity. It's competing against itself. Or rather, Sony is competing against itself. They showed off awesome. They showed off a system that really I can't imagine. Or they showed off a system. They created a system that really I can't see a reason to buy. I'd really rather you not do that attack. Just because they already have a system out there that does all of the same things. Yeah, it's portable, but its battery lifespan is like 3 hours. Fire, water, like wood. So Sony, in terms of handhelds, is sort of in the same position that Microsoft is currently in. They've got a system that doesn't really have a strong showing for itself. Oh, come on! Don't make me put collect on. They've got good games. I'm not going to say there's no games on the PS Vita. I know there are, despite the fact that I can't seem to ever find any. I know the PlayStation Vita has some good games out there. I know it's got reasons to buy it. The problem is those reasons aren't any better than the reasons to buy a PS3, and the PS3 is just so much more capable than the PS Vita. So, if we were looking at the 3DS, the 3DS does something that no other systems do. It was the same thing with the DS and like the Wii. There were experiences you could play on a DS that wouldn't seem that off on a Wii, but there were definitely things you would never be able to do on a DS that you would be, never be able to do on a home console that you could do on a DS. And likewise with the 3DS, it continues that trend. Now, obviously, that's not going to be true for everything. Like, Fire Emblem on the 3DS isn't really that different than Fire Emblem on the home consoles. But like Super Mario 3D Land, Super Mario 3D Land is the kind of game it's like you basically have to have the 3D on that game because it just helps so much. And it's that combination of like that 3D screen plus having the two screens. It means you can't do the kind of things you can do on a DS that you can do on home consoles. Now that's becoming less true though because Nintendo decided they were going to make a two-screen home console as well, but I guess that's where that 3D screen comes in handy. But it's also the fact that Nintendo treats the 3DS like it is its own system. It makes games that it really only makes for the 3DS. Now, yes, we did just get Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, and we are getting on the 3DS, and we are getting Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U, but it's so much more few and far between the Vita and the PlayStation 3. And now going back to Sony's conference, I didn't really feel like they had any real reason to buy. They didn't really give me a reason to want to buy a Vita. They talked more about how you could play PlayStation 4 games on your Vita, but why would I want to do that when I could just play my PlayStation 4? Because you have to do it over Wi-Fi anyways, which means you have to be in your house, basically. And not just that, if you've got Wi-Fi on and you're streaming a console that is significantly more powerful than the Vita, how long is that battery gonna last? It doesn't appeal to me. In the same way that the Xbox One doesn't appeal to me. I don't see a reason to have that system. They're not giving me good reasons to have that system. They don't have the games. They don't have the identity. Which is odd, because I really felt like the PSP kind of had that problem as well. Sony specifically kind of made the PSP compete with its own system, but it also had a tremendous amount of games that you could only buy on the PSP. You could only play those games on the PSP, and there was other companies that were doing that well. They were making games that were only on the PSP. Now we have the Vita, not so much. So that was definitely that was kind of the low point for Sony. On the flip side, the high point for Nintendo was definitely the stuff it was showing off on the 3DS. I can't even remember what the full title to the new Link to the Past. The full title. Oh yeah, it's Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Oh my god, can't even explain it. So excited for that game. They're also bringing back Yoshi's Island, which, oh my god, so excited for that game. And it looks like they're actually bringing back Yoshi's Island instead of that like garbage that was Yoshi's Island 2. We're not even going to talk about that game. Yoshi's Island 2, not even canon, doesn't exist. Mario and Luigi Dream Team, things like that. Like, that system right there, they know what they're doing with that system right there. That's one of the other two reasons that Nintendo like won't fail. It's just because they've got an iron grip on the throat of the handheld market. I don't see anything taking that away from them. There was all of the detractors who said, you know, this was back when the DS and the PSP were coming to an end, really. It's like, well, will these new systems even be able to, you know, maintain in a world where we have these mobile devices that you can play games on? And it's like, yes, you can, because those mobile devices do not really have that great of games. Mobile games are pretty ass, to be completely honest. There's not really anything that gets released for mobile that I want to play, or that I want to play for more than 5 minutes. And if I'm not going to play it for more than 5 minutes, I'm also not going to spend any money on it. But yeah, that's sort of how E3 was for me. Now, as for like third-party stuff, there was actually some really interesting stuff. Watch Dogs is right now the game I am absolutely most interested in. If it comes out on the Wii U, like basically if it comes out before it comes out on PS4, I'll end up buying it on the Wii U. I kind of want to have it. I kind of want to have it for a like I kind of want to buy a PS4 and I kind of want to have it for a PS4, but I might just buy it for a Wii U anyways. Oh man, I think I actually have to start ending this soon. My throat is starting to kill me. I've gone on for a whole hour, guys. This is ridiculous. I don't know how long it's going to take it to upload either. It's like 2 gigs. But this E3 was actually really, really amazing as far as I'm concerned. If only because of Sony and Nintendo. IGN is where I got most of my coverage. I was doing like IGN, game trailers, joystick, but IGN was where I was watching like the talking heads basically talk about it. I remember someone saying that Microsoft had like a 9.5 out of 10 or a 9.0 out of 10 conference. No? They didn't show off anything really, like they didn't show off enough exclusives, to be completely honest. They showed a couple things that were interesting, but not really motivating me to buy the system. Like I said, there's Killer Instinct, which would make me hype, except for that they're not having Rare make it for some reason. Instead, they're having Rare work on another Kinect game. For God's sakes, the Kinect is worthless. I'm gonna say it again. I said it before, and I'll say it again. If you own a Kinect and you like the Kinect and you bought the Kinect on purpose, you don't exist. Like, please stop pretending you're there. You're not. And I'm sure I'm probably going to offend someone by saying that, but let's be completely honest. That is just a worthless item. So like the stuff that they showed off with the Kinect, who cares? There were some games that I kind of were, like, I was interested when I heard about them, and then I actually found out that they were, like, Kinect games. So I'm like, well, now I don't care anymore. Like, there was that game that's basically Panzer Dragoon Orta, except for now it's a Kinect game. So why would I buy that game then? I don't want to play a Kinect game. I don't want to wave my hand. It's stupid. I mean, they showed a teaser for Halo 5 with no gameplay, and Master Chief, for some reason, wearing a cloak over his armor, as if somehow that's going to help keep his face even more hidden, I guess. I don't know, that was stupid. I thought that was retarded. That annoyed me for, like, the entirety of that. And then there was no gameplay or anything, like... And even then, the last couple of Halos have been pretty awful, in my opinion, so I don't really care about that game. I know it seems kind of cynical. That's because I am cynical. But Microsoft had an awful showing at this E3. They've just had an awful showing for like the last couple of weeks, actually. Definitely the weakest of the competitors there, which is hilarious because Nintendo didn't even have a press conference. You know you're doing something wrong when you're losing to someone who's like not even trying. And again, I know I'm probably gonna piss someone off by saying that. I'm sure there's some diehard Microsoft fanboy watching my videos, but it's true. I'm sorry. I can't make it any better for you. That's just how it is. Sorry, I'm kind of focusing now because I really want this chip. And I don't think I'm going to get it. Oh, don't go up, don't go up, don't go up. Come on, first panel, first panel, first panel. Oh, I'm dead. First panel, oh, and then I got hit again. Yep, not going to get it. But yeah, this is sort of my huge, ridiculous, super long E3 video. This is my thoughts on E3, my thoughts on the new consoles, my thoughts on basically everything. It's sort of an expanded thing on an expanded thing on from the last video. Oh, and if you actually managed to make it this far, I'm gonna have to put like an annotation at the beginning of the video, because I meant to say this at the beginning of the video and then I forgot. I didn't want to actually upload this today. What I wanted to upload was New Super Mario Brothers, because we have it finished. AznEyes and I have finished that game. The problem is, one of the parts that I left over at AznEyes' house the last time we recorded, because I didn't have enough room on my flash drive to bring it over, he deleted. It was the beginning of us playing through World 9, the Star World, and it had the first 2 levels we played through on that world on there. So I don't have that video anymore. I have to go and re-record that with him because he deleted it. So I'm not uploading. I want to upload that first, basically. I don't want to. Or I guess I could upload it last, because honestly, no, I can't actually. I want to upload that first. So I'm gonna try and go to AznEyes' house tomorrow and record that one part again, and then I'll start uploading New Super Mario Brothers again after that. But if you stuck it out, if you actually watched the whole thing, if you actually stuck it out and watched this whole video, I thank you. I know it was ridiculously long, and I know it was kind of incoherent. I went off on a lot of random tangents. But that was just my thoughts. That was my whole overview, my whole thoughts on this year's E3. I know it's still technically going on right now. I'm recording this while there's still stuff going on. But like I said, it's mostly just hands-on stuff. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Pink Reaper signing out.